Welcome to the first episode of Balanced Life Matters. I'm your host, Jamie McDonald. Here we journey through the science of psychology, life experiences, and actionable insights to help you live a more balanced, happier, and fulfilling life. Today's episode, we will dive into the aspects of self-esteem and how it can aid you in personal and professional development by understanding psychological theories related to this aspect of ourselves. So grab yourself a nice drink, grab out your journey journal, which is a notebook and a pen, and get comfortable as we delve into this very important topic and we look at it from many different angles. So we're going to start with the overview of self-esteem and its importance. Self-esteem is a critical psychological and subjective concept that relates to a person's overall evaluation of their own worth, value, and competence. It impacts our daily lives in many ways. High self-esteem is often associated with greater emotional resilience and well-being, and people with healthy self-esteem tend to experience less anxiety, depression, and stress. They are better equipped to handle life's challenges and setbacks. Individuals with high self-esteem are generally more self-assured and confident, and they believe in their abilities and are more willing to take on new challenges and pursue their goals. This can lead to greater success in various life domains. This channel is all about talking about how everything relates back to a balanced life and the 8 areas of creating a balanced life. Now, we know your life is never going to be in complete harmony and balance. We understand that. But the more you focus in on creating a harmonious life, creating balance, creating a homeostasis, the more you're going to find more balance and happiness. And that's really the goal. So let's go and talk a little bit more about self-esteem. Self-esteem plays a critical role in the quality of interpersonal relationships. People with a healthy self-esteem are more likely to engage in positive, fulfilling relationships because they tend to believe they deserve respect and love. They also set healthier boundaries in relationships. Very important key point there. And we'll talk about healthier boundaries in relationships in future podcasts. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Self-esteem influences decision-making. Individuals with higher self-esteem are more likely to make decisions based on their own values and beliefs rather than constant external validation. They are also more assertive in expressing their needs and preferences. High self-esteem can also boost motivation and achievement. When individuals believe in their abilities, they are more likely to set ambitious goals and work persistently to achieve them. They are less deterred by failures and setbacks. Those with low self-esteem are often more deterred with these failures and setbacks. Low self-esteem is often associated with mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. Negative self-perceptions can lead to a cycle of self-doubt and self-criticism contributing to these conditions. Research suggests that self-esteem can influence physical health. People with higher self-esteem are more likely to engage in health-promoting behaviors such as regular exercise and a balanced diet. Self-esteem can also impact academic and career success. Those with high self-esteem tend to perform better academically and excel in their careers because they really believe in their abilities and are more willing to pursue opportunities for growth. Self-esteem also contributes to resilience. When faced with adversity, individuals with healthy self-esteem are more likely to bounce back, learn from their experiences, and view challenges as an opportunity for personal growth. This is something I talk about all the time on my podcasts, on my videos, even in our membership community. It's really important that we have that resiliency. It helps us to move forward in that success. Ultimately, self-esteem plays a significant role in overall life satisfaction. People with positive self-esteem tend to be happier, healthier, more balanced, and more content with their lives. Did you know that it is possible to change self-esteem over time and can vary at differing levels in different areas of your life balance? This is very true. You may have really high self-esteem in one area, maybe your relationships, but maybe your self-esteem at work is lower. This can happen a lot, and this also goes in line with balancing. Social psychologists believe that people are driven to maintain a high level of self-esteem regardless the cost. We'll talk about that in a future podcast episode, so be sure you're subscribed. Also, we have designed a 5-day challenge in the membership community teaching great daily tips to understand and improve self-esteem. So click the link below and join. And while you're down there clicking that link, be sure to grab that coupon code for your first month free trial. And then after that, it's only $5 a month. We wanted to make the membership community as affordable as possible for the most people as possible. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the fundamental attribution error. The fundamental attribution error, FAE, is a cognitive bias in which individuals tend to attribute the behavior of others to internal or dispositional factors while underestimating the impact of external situational factors. When examining the implications of FAE, that's fundamental attribution error, in relation to self-esteem, we can consider how this bias affects both our perceptions of others and our own self-esteem. So if we're going to break it down in that way, let's start with perception of others. So negative judgments of others, getting the wrong first and subsequent impressions. Remember, first impressions, according to science, they're hard to change due to the priming effect, where what we learn first about something colors everything else that we learn about that thing or person in the future. This can be harmful for interpersonal, even personal relationships. Fundamental attribution error can reinforce stereotypes and can contribute to conflicts and misunderstandings in relationships. But it also has an impact on an individual's self-esteem. Fundamental attribution error can impact our own self-esteem. We may assume that others are making the same dispositional attribution judgments about ourselves. We learn from our social cues, and if we witness someone negatively judging someone for something that they did wrong, we might assume others would judge us the same way for a similar mistake. This can make people feel vulnerable and lower their self-esteem. Remember, our number one goal in regards to self-esteem as humans is to maintain that high level of self-esteem. Criticizing others or viewing them with a dispositional lens might lead to self-criticism. Remember, dispositional is about an internal. So when you're looking at somebody, they're having a bad day and they say something that's inappropriate or mean, you might think that they're a mean person, but instead you might not know that there might be a situational thing that has caused that. Maybe they found out their mother was in the hospital and they're just really stressed. So it has nothing to do with that person. However, a lot of times we tend as human beings to put a dispositional label or attribute a person's personality or their disposition to their personality as opposed to what's going on around them. So again, dispositional or internal attribution is about linking behaviors to personality or internal factors, avoiding the external possibilities. Self-blame or criticism is the opposite of positive affirmations. It can erode self-esteem. Well, we're on the topic of opposites. A person with self-serving bias is likely to increase self-esteem by attributing their success to personal traits, not outside factors. There is some links down below in the video description box that you can go ahead and look, and you want to research and delve deeper into each one of these concepts. I've shared those links down below so that you can look into them a little bit further if you find them interesting. Now, Lee Ross's study delves into the psychological phenomenon known as fundamental attribution error, FAE, and refers to the tendency of people to attribute the behavior of others to dispositional factors. This is again, the personality traits, their character, while often overlooking the impact of situational factors. We mentioned that a few minutes ago in this podcast, but Ross's work, published in the influential Advances of Experimental Science, Social Psychology, provides key insights into this cognitive bias and its consequences. And Ross's study shows this is a common attribution error, and it can lead us to make incorrect, even bad judgments about others. We tend to blame the person more so than the situation, and this falls true with the scientific data that we have on this. Ross's study also highlights concepts like actor-observer bias, where we tend to attribute our own behavior to external factors, but others' behaviors to internal traits. It highlights the importance of considering situational factors when interpreting behavior, which can lead to a more accurate judgment and improved interpersonal relationships. So what that really means, it's about, even though our first instinct, according to science, is to attribute a person's demeanor, their behavior, to something personally about them, we want to always take a step back. If we feel like we're in a conversation with somebody, or we're in a situation where the other person seems a little off or not nice or inappropriate, we want to look at the whole situation and think, oh, what could actually be impacting this person? Is this person really as bad as they're coming off? Or maybe they're having a bad day because of external factors. And being aware of that really helps with building strong relationships. So here's an actionable tip for you. Before making a judgment, ask yourself, what might be happening in this person's life that I am unaware of? It's a great question, and if you take it from that vantage point, you might find that you develop great friendships with people that even first impressions may make you feel like, oh, maybe I don't want to associate with this person. However, even with first impressions, we can all be having something bad going on in our lives and not really care about that first impression, which could be a missed connection or a missed friendship. So keeping that in mind might help you to look at things with a more broader brushstroke. If you're enjoying this information-packed podcast, join our membership community. Take weekly challenges that focus on personal or professional development and finding a balanced and happier life. Link below or a QR code on the screen, and we have a limited number of first month free trials using the coupon Balanced Life. So grab yours before they run out and continue the monthly membership if you decide to continue after the 30 days or the first month for only $5 a month. You can cancel at any time. I mentioned our membership club because this podcast is actually in alignment with the membership community weekly challenge that is up over there starting Monday. So definitely want to go ahead and take a look at that. If you're enjoying this, join the club. Again, for a limited time, we're offering a limited number of free first month memberships to try it out. Now we're going to move on to what is going to be covered day 2 on the challenge, but also we're going to move on to a concept called the spotlight effect. If you are understanding or familiar with the spotlight effect, go ahead and let us know in the comment section below what you think of this concept. So the spotlight effect is a cognitive bias that leads individuals to overestimate the extent to which other people notice and pay attention to their actions, appearances, and flaws. It's the tendency to believe that we are constantly in the spotlight of others' attentions. This is so common nowadays. With everything on social media, we feel like we're always being watched, even when this is not the case. Rooted in egocentrism, where individuals tend to view the world from their own perspective, they assume that because they are highly aware of their own actions, appearance, and flaws, others must be equally attentive to these aspects. This bias leads people to overestimate the amount of attention others are directing towards them. Just because you noticed an extra wrinkle around your eyes this morning doesn't mean anyone else is paying attention to this. In the spotlight bias, those using this filter believe everyone is noticing their flaws. This can have a real impact on their self-esteem. Want to delve more into this theory? The study by Thomas Gilovich and others, The Spotlight Effect in Social Judgment and Egocentric Bias in Estimates of Salience of One's Own Actions and Appearance from 2000, is linked up down below with the APA reference, so you can check it out. All right, I think many of us can relate to similar situations when it comes to the spotlight bias, and I wanted to take a moment and kind of talk about that. One example is when a person wears an outfit they're not comfortable with. Maybe they feel self-conscious about it. Those operating under this theory might believe everyone is judging their attire, and in most cases, people are more focused on their own situations, not paying much mind at all to the clothes one wears, unless it is inappropriate for the event. And that calls attention to it, not because they are in the spotlight, but because it's just you're wearing a swimsuit to an evening gown function. That would cause somebody to pay attention to that. Before I learned to be more confident in my public speaking, I personally self-criticized myself for every small mistake and believed the audience was doing the same. Until one day I discussed my speech with an acquaintance who had seen it, and they said they didn't even notice. Multiple times I would bring up another thing I did wrong, and they said they didn't even notice. And then another thing that I brought up that I did wrong, they said they didn't even notice. They were more focused on what I was saying, not how I said it or what I look like. Can you think of a time when you experienced this phenomenon? You might have felt this many more times than you first realize. Journal about it in your journey journal and delve into how you felt when you thought others were critiquing you. Recognizing this can reduce social anxiety, enhance self-esteem, and improve interaction with other people sociably. But we like to always add some actionable tips in here, so here's another action that you can take. Celebrate your uniqueness. Others are often too absorbed in their own lives to scrutinize yours. Find your own uniqueness, write about that in your journey journal, and celebrate that. Because that is what makes you you, and that's what makes you special. And that uniqueness might get you noticed, might not, but the thing is that it's you being your true self, your authentic self, and that is really a great benefit to your self-esteem. Ready to delve in deeper? Hey, you know what I'm going to say? This is where I usually put my commercials, but being how this is the first episode, I guess I'll be putting my commercials for the membership community here. So if you're finding this information helpful, please share, like the podcast, subscribe, and comment, and let us know what's your biggest takeaway so far. As I was writing this episode, it occurred to me how much we rely on others to develop and hone our self-esteem. Have you thought about that? That was my biggest takeaway as I was writing this episode. And if you want to support the channel but not ready to commit to the membership community, which is linked below, you can click the Buy Me Coffee link below too. I hope you were able to refresh your coffee during that small commercial break. I wanted to talk to you next about social comparison theory. So the social comparison theory is a huge psychological theory. And if you're familiar with it, let us know in the comment section below what you understand about the social comparison theory and how you think this could actually relate back to self-esteem. So the social comparison theory is a psychological theory that states people compare themselves to others as a gauge for self-evaluation. There's upward comparisons and downward comparisons. And when people make an upward comparison, it's when individuals compare themselves to those better off, those who are more successful. And this can actually lower self-esteem and trigger negative emotions, or it can provide motivation. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. Downward comparisons involves comparing to those worse off who are not at the same level as you, but you might consider them to be somehow less adequate in something or a skill. This tends to boost self-esteem and elicit positive emotions. So let's go a little bit deeper into upward comparison and downward comparisons because there's pros and cons for both. So upward comparison decreases self-esteem because individuals may perceive themselves as being less in comparison to others who are more successful or capable. This can lead to negative emotions like envy, jealousy, and insecurity. The list could go on and on there, and all of these can weaken self-esteem. There is a flip side for the highly motivated, as comparisons can inspire them to set goals and work towards them, but remember to set small, achievable goals. I have a weekly challenge on that in the membership community if you're curious, but those setting those small achievable goals can help with more successes and less failures. Try goal setting weekly challenges in the membership community, and also joining in on the conversation or down below as far as how big or small goals should be. Each success can create an increased self-esteem. Now, downward comparisons can boost self-esteem by highlighting one's strengths and successes. It can create positive emotions like gratitude, contentment, and accomplishment. The list again here can go on and on. But on the flip side, it can also create complacency. We need to always be striving for better. However, the better should be personal improvements. How you compare yourselves to others, or you compare yourselves to your own self. That is the key to this. Comparing ourselves to ourselves can increase self-esteem and keep us motivated to achieve more. I have linked up the APA reference for Leon Festinger's article on a theory of social comparison processes. You might find that a very interesting read if this concept interests you. This is completely different podcast coming soon on social comparison theory, because it is so encompassing that it can literally fill a full 30 to 40, even 1 hour podcast. So we'll have another one on this. But it's important to address the social media trap in relation to self-esteem and social comparison theory. The dangers are unrealistic idealization, constant social comparison, negative emotions, body image concerns, fear of missing out, oftentimes called FOMO, F-O-M-O, building dependence on validation, unrealistic comparison to celebrities and influences, even digital detox fatigue for those who have fallen into this trap. So be sure you're subscribed to the channel, as we'll be delving into this in greater detail in future episodes. I always like to end this segment with an actionable tip and then a commercial. So we're going to go ahead and end this segment with an actionable tip. Redirect your comparison inward. Celebrate personal growth and avoid measuring yourself against others. There is a reason why social comparison theory is important. I watch my child do this all the time. She compares her actions to her peers so that she can know if she is following social norms that are unspoken norms, so she can fit in better. So social comparison theory has its benefits. But you really want to get to the point where you've built that self-esteem to the point where you feel pretty confident in that you can see what other people are doing, understand that this may be filtered, or this may be, they're just putting their best front forward. This is not realistic. It's unrealistic. And then you can look at yourself and make a comparison on how you can improve from yesterday. And that is a big key in making this theory work for you and also improving your self-esteem. Now, I am not going to go into the membership community once more because we've already talked about it twice on 2 commercials. Again, this will be where I put my commercials in between each segment on the podcast. So if you needed to grab a drink, refresh your coffee or your tea, then I completely understand. It gives you a chance to do that. But just know that the link is down below. We're going to go ahead and move on to the Pygmalion Effect. Welcome back, and let's start talking about the Pygmalion Effect. The Pygmalion Effect, also known as the Rosenthal Effect, is a psychological phenomenon in which higher expectations lead to an increase in performance. It's the idea that when someone believes in you and expects you to do well, you are more likely to meet those expectations. This has an impact on self-esteem and behavior. The belief that someone else has in your abilities can increase your own confidence and motivation, leading to improved success. When people are treated well, they tend to believe in themselves more and act in ways that align with how others treat them. This is essentially a self-fulfilling prophecy that creates a positive feedback loop, where better performance reinforces the high expectations set by others. Now, on the flip side, there's always a flip side, it seems, but the Golem effect is when low expectations lead to weaker performance. Being constantly doubted and underestimated can create negative impact on self-esteem. This can also cause people to internalize the negative expectations and in turn perform below their potential. If you want to learn more about this, you can check out the article by Rosenthal and Jacobson, the Pygmalion in the Classroom, the Urban Review, and I've linked up the information down below for you as well. But parenting is a great example of how this effect works. When parents show encouragement and faith in their children's abilities, they help increase that child's self-esteem and build their confidence to do better and focus on success. Now, our child was struggling with reading when she first started school. I decided to set reachable expectations about reading, motivating and encouraging her, celebrating her successes. We literally took 5 minutes to celebrate a huge success when she read big words and she sounded them out all by herself. We started reading and sounding out everything. Even when we were not in school, around town, we would read and sound out everything in the stores, reading labels, reading signs. And together, we did this, and I told her that I know you can do this. I'm going to help you through this. And we would sound out words together, and it just became a really fun game, but also a huge motivation because she knew her mom had faith in her. Suddenly, her reading improved. She started reading larger words without my help and only asking when she couldn't come up with the answer. She was determined to prove me right, that she was as good as I had made her feel. She got excited about how well she was reading, and she hasn't looked back. As I write the script for this podcast, I am able to reflect on how my first grader just started second grade reading this week. She's only halfway through first grade, and she is now in second grade reading, and she is excelling even in second grade reading, and she is excited about it. We set the expectation, encouraged her, and were able to watch her develop amazing reading skills. So here's an actionable tip for you as you're listening to this podcast. Surround yourself with positive influencers and be that positive influencer for others. You have no idea the impact that can make, one, on your own psyche and your self-esteem, but also on others, and how it makes them feel so motivated and encouraged, and literally can change a direction of how they behave in certain situations. There's a lot of science on that, and we can do another podcast on that also in the future. Let me know in the comment section below if you would like to see that. If you have any, as you're listening to, we're getting ready to start on the next segment. So instead of doing our typical ad here, I'm going to say, as you listening to this podcast, if you have any takeaways or some ideas that come to you, I encourage you to please share them down below, because this is more about community and not just about me sharing all of this information. We can learn from each other in the comment section. So please take some time, and even if you have to pause the video, to just kind of comment and say, yeah, this just occurred to me as you were talking about this concept. I would love to hear it. It would make me very excited to read those comments and see what's going on. So instead of going into our quick commercial break, the link's down below, but I'm going to go ahead and put on a little music here, let you refresh your drink, let you take some notes in your journey journal, and I will be right back. Welcome back. We are cruising through this podcast episode. I want to try to keep them close to 30 to 45 minutes. I know your time is valuable. And honestly, each one of these topics that we're talking about in this particular podcast could have a whole 30 minutes dedicated to each topic. So there's a lot of jam-packed information in here. So please feel free to rewatch it, share it, do whatever you feel is comfortable to learn the material, and just keep coming back every week, and we will be sure to add more and more to what we're learning each podcast. Today, this segment, we're going to talk about cognitive dissonance and self-esteem. If you're familiar with cognitive dissonance, let us know in the comment section below what you think of this theory, and I would love to hear it. So cognitive dissonance refers to the psychological discomfort or tension that arises when someone holds conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or values, or when their actions are just inconsistent with their beliefs or self-concept. This can be very uncomfortable. This discomfort motivates people to reduce the dissonance by changing their beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors to whichever side of the argument they feel happier with. Not that we always make the healthiest or the best choice on that argument. That sometimes we choose to pick the side that may not be the healthiest option. If someone had to choose between getting healthier by exercising and smoking, they may choose to change the behavior of smoking or exercising. They may choose not to exercise. They may choose to trivialize the behavior of smoking to reduce the tension. They may choose to pick a non-cardio exercise program so they can keep smoking and exercising. They may even choose to ignore the tension and focus on something completely different, like positive self-affirmation. Sure, I may smoke, but the real thing to remember is I am a great mom. So these are ways that we rationalize in our own mind to help us to work through that cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling, and it can be physical as well as emotional and mental. Now, Leon Festinger in 1957 published a paper on the theory of cognitive dissonance, and it has survived the test of time and suggested that there are 4 ways to alleviate cognitive dissonance: change behavior, change thoughts, add a thought, or trivialize the dissonance. Have you experienced cognitive dissonance in your life? Now, take a moment. You can even pause this video. Reflect on this in your journey journal. Think about these times that you felt this. And I am willing to venture a guess that the majority of us have all felt cognitive dissonance at one time or another in our lives. If you want to go ahead and look into this more, you can check out The Theory of Cognitive Dissonance by Leon Festinger. I will link up down below the reference for you. It's important to align actions with values. So important. We have another podcast coming soon on cognitive dissonance. That's how important this topic it is. But here are some highlights in relation to self-esteem to ponder. If someone with high self-esteem engages in a behavior that violates their personal values or beliefs, like lying to one's parents about going to the movie when they were going to a party where drugs or drinking might be, they may experience cognitive dissonance. To reduce this dissonance, they may rationalize their behavior or minimize its significance to protect their self-esteem. Self-esteem variances can influence how people respond to cognitive dissonance. Individuals with high self-esteem may be more motivated to resolve the dissonance by changing their behavior or beliefs, as they have a strong desire to maintain a positive self-esteem image. In contrast, those with lower self-esteem may find it more challenging to resolve dissonance, leading to greater discomfort. If individuals successfully reduce dissonance by aligning their beliefs and actions, it can lead to a sense of personal integrity and actually bolster self-esteem. On the other hand, if they struggle to resolve dissonance or engage in defensive mechanisms like denial, it can negatively affect self-esteem. This can cause people to choose to trivialize or change or add thoughts to avoid failing at changing that behavior. This is another topic we'll have on this podcast. Failure is and how failure is a stepping stone to success. Failure is okay, but we're going to talk about that in another one. Your actionable tip for this segment: regularly reflect on and realign your actions to your core values. That journey journal that you've been using throughout this whole last 30 minutes is something that you can do every day. You can sit down at the end of the day before bed, 30 minutes before, and just write in your journal and reflect on what happened during the day. You can also get up in the morning and do the same thing and help to use that as a motivator to move forward. You can also join our membership community. I know. And you can use that journey journal as you work through your weekly challenges. So in this podcast, we discussed a great deal of topics of fundamental attribution effect, the spotlight effect, social comparison theory, the Pygmalion effect, and cognitive dissonance, and how it relates to self-esteem. Let me tell you, these 5 areas could have a podcast dedicated to themselves. So please understand that we did not cover everything under these theories, and they will be coming in future videos. The weekly challenge in the membership club this week also goes over these areas and offers more daily activities to our members to focus on personal and professional growth for a happier, more balanced life. So be sure to join today if you like. Pick one challenge a week and focus on it. Change is easier one step at a small time. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast. We'll focus on new podcasts almost every week. Holidays may be excluded, so just understand if it's a holiday week, we may not get the time to put up a new exercise or new podcast. But the plan is to do one a week. So we do plan to have a lot and a wealth of information here for free on the YouTube channel. So just be sure to subscribe. All right, so we'll go on to here is where in normal podcast I would do another commercial, but we're not going to do a commercial break because we are closing this out and this podcast has lasted a little bit longer than I had planned on. So I'm going to close out this podcast, introduce you to what we're going to talk about next week, and thank you for joining our podcast. Please like, comment with your biggest takeaway, share the podcast, subscribe, and we'll see you next week with another episode. This one will focus on the dangers of social media trap that we talked about later in relation to self-esteem and social comparison theory. Don't miss the podcast and the accompanying week and the challenge in the membership community if you can make it. I encourage you to share examples, further the conversation in the comment section. This is so important. I will be online all week checking the comments and responding to as many comments as possible. So I am looking forward to engaging with our community on the comment section. I'm excited to see what our community thinks. This will also help me to figure out what might be important to you as somebody who is consuming this information. What might be important for you to that you'd find interesting for future podcasts and future content. I'm going to end this with a wonderful quote. Believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there is something inside you that is greater than any obstacle. Christian D. Larson. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to chatting in the comments. I look forward to chatting next week. Have a wonderful week. Be the light that shines for those around you. Keep the positive around you, and we'll see you soon. Bye.